This guy really can't catch a break now, can he? I'm telling you, Chappelle, man, I don't understand how he went from one of America's most beloved comics to America's most hated comic overnight. I mean, that's what it seems like. You wake up one day, hey, we love this guy. You wake up the next day, oh, we hate this guy. Look, so I talked about this in another video, and I'm going to kind of repeat some stuff here. And again, I know that I already lost some people over this, and I'm probably going to lose more people over this. Keep in mind, I'm a liberal, I'm a leftist, I'm not against the transgender community. I choose not to live the lifestyle. I think that's quite clear and understandable. And I know some people have the brains to understand that and other people don't. I'm not responsible for other people not thinking. I'm not responsible for other people think and feel. Here's the deal. He got in trouble with the media because he joked about transgenders in his special from 2021. And the reason I find that to be funny is because nobody said anything when he joked about it in his specials that he did between the years of 2016 and 2019. Now, keep in mind, that special came out in 2021, and he was scheduled to do a show in Minneapolis in, I think that was June of 2022, earlier this year. And just hours before the show, they canceled him. They canceled that show. And they canceled that because of the backlash he got for the transgender jokes. And I was like, really? You waited that long for... Okay. Now, according to NPR, it says right here, a Minneapolis concert venue canceled a Dave Chappelle show just hours before it was scheduled to start, saying that it had lost sight of the impact the controversial comedian's set would have on its audience. The Wednesday night show was moved to another venue across town. To staff, artists, and our community, we hear you and we are sorry. First Avenue said in a statement announcing the cancellation, we know we must hold ourselves to the highest standards and we know we let you down. The First Avenue team and you have worked so hard to make our venues the safest space in the country, and we will continue with that mission. Chappelle has received criticism over the last few years about recurring jokes aimed at the LGBTQ community, particularly transgender people. His controversial Netflix special entitled The Closer received 2 Emmy nominations. As a result of some of his jokes, some employees at Netflix, where Chappelle has had 4 stand-up specials, staged a walkout last year. One employee who co-led the resource group for trans employees was fired for allegedly leaking Netflix data. Chappelle said, it's been said in the press that I was invited to speak to the transgender employees of Netflix and I refused. That is not true. If they had invited me, I would have accepted it, although I'm confused about what we would be speaking about. I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. Isaiah Lee, age 23, is accused of tackling Chappelle on stage at the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival in Los Angeles in May, though a motive has not been established. Lee pled not guilty to 4 misdemeanor charges. Now, keep in mind, this article came out months ago. This was July. Now, here's the thing. First of all, the first thing that I'm going to point out that's wrong with that sentence is, or that's even wrong with that being said or with that statement. First of all, it's not that he was accused of tackling him on stage. We all saw it on video. Now, regardless of how you feel about it, you can sit there and say, even if you wanted to be that much of an a-hole and say, yeah, I hate Dave Chappelle too, so he deserved to get tackled. Or you can be on the other side and say, that's not right. Dave Chappelle gets to say whatever he wants to say. He shouldn't be tackled for that. Okay, well, the feelings might be different, but the reality is he got tackled on stage. We all saw it on video. And it was public. You can pull it up on YouTube right now. He got tackled. It's not an accusation. That's what happened. And we learned later on why he did it. And I talked about this before. The guy identified as bisexual. He said that he was abused as a kid. And like I said, I'm sorry to hear that. Nobody should have to go through that. And Dave Chappelle was making the jokes on stage. And so he got triggered and decided to tackle him. And like I said, Dave Chappelle is not a new name to the public. He's not a new figure. So if you had a feeling he was going to joke about that, you probably shouldn't have been at the show. And you should probably just stop watching him if you know that he's going to say something. So I talked about all that stuff in another video. Now, here's the thing. So recently he was on SNL, and let me pull it up right here. So this is the part right here that is funny to me. And I just watched the segment, the 15-minute segment he did on SNL. And I'm not going to play that part because it was, like I said, it was too long, but I'm going to put the link in the comment section so you all could watch it for those of you who didn't see it. And what I'm seeing right here coming from many articles, BuzzFeed News, Variety. Jon Stewart defends Dave Chappelle's SNL monologue. He said, quote unquote, censorship doesn't end anti-Semitism. Another source says, SNL monologue sparks backlash as being anti-Semitic. First of all, anybody who watched that segment knows that Dave Chappelle was making fun of Kanye for what he said about the Jewish people. When Kanye woke up one morning and just decided to say, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews, Chappelle was quoting that and he was making fun of him for that. But now Chappelle is the anti-Semite. First, look, you know, this whole thing is so crazy. And it's now, as I've stated before, I know that two wrongs don't make a right, but there are many other comedians in the past who have said way worse things than anything that Chappelle's done said. I can give you examples off the top of my head. Joan Rivers made fun of dead people. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. Daniel Tosh made a joke where he was telling his audience to rape a woman in the audience. Dane Cook made a joke about the shooting in Aurora, Colorado. And of course, you had people like Andrew Dice Clay, who was, everything that he said was filthy, came out of his mouth. George Carlin had some dark humor. He said some stuff, and you had Seth MacFarlane. So, I mean, there are so many other things that I could. And so now to go back to the whole thing about him making the transgender jokes, and he can't say this and that, but he's also made jokes, like many other comedians have, that he's made jokes about every other group, or almost every other group, no backlash whatsoever. We're talking blacks, whites, Mexicans, Jews, Asians, political parties, Democrats, Republicans, just making fun of, he makes jokes about men and women, celebrities, R. Kelly. He talked about R. Kelly and his troubles. He talked about Michael Jackson and his allegations, all this stuff. And everybody. So think about this. He jokes about all these groups. It's all laughter. It's all fun and games. Jokes about black people, white people, ha ha, he he. Mexicans, ha ha, he he. Asians, ha ha, he he. You joke about Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, ha ha, he he. All of that. Transgenders. Wait. What did he just say? Oh, we hate them now. Now, I think that there is a very good question. There's a good point that Chappelle brought up. I need you to hear this right here. Now, right before I play this, let me just put this into context. So Dave Chappelle, in one of his sets, he was talking about how Kevin Hart got in trouble because he tweeted a gay joke from back in somewhere between the years of like 2000. I think this had to have been like 2012 or 13. And they just brought it up like last year, a couple years ago. And here's what Chappelle talks about. This will be about a minute. And I think this is good. This is genius right here.
I understand the mistake you made because I've made the same mistake early in my career. This is many years ago, 15 years ago. It's when I was doing Chappelle's show. Thank you. On network television, they have a department that's called Standards and Practices. This is the department that tells you what you can and cannot say on television. And if you're doing your job well, you should never hear from them. But if you're making a Chappelle show, you'll hear from these motherfuckers all the time. And remember, this is 15 years ago. I made a mistake. I didn't even know I had done anything wrong. I had written a sketch that had the word faggot in it.
I should have told y'all that was coming. But anyway, let's continue.
So I had to go to standards and practices. They called me up. I don't know why they're calling me, but I like the lady that runs the department. She's usually really fair and was one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. So she sits me down. We have a nice conversation. She tells me, oh, the sketches are great. I go, oh, fantastic. Well, then why am I here? She said, because, David, there's no way that you can ever say the word faggot on our network. I didn't know I did anything wrong. I didn't try to defend myself. I said, all right, fuck it, I'll take it out. Have a good afternoon. And as I was leaving, it occurred to me, hey, Renee, quick question. It's just a question. Seriously, I want to know, like, why is it that I can say the word nigger with impunity, but I can't say the word faggot? And she said, because, David, you are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a nigger either.
So you heard what he just said. Now, here's my question. Is he wrong in what he said? Like, why is that? Why? You do understand that between those two words, one of them has a much, first of all, there's a horrible history behind one of those words. And it goes back a long time. I would say a few years, few decades, maybe even a few centuries. You know, I'm just guessing. It might be centuries. You know, I'm just throwing that out there. So to all the people who sat there and said he is anti-Semitic because he referenced what Kanye said, or that he is homophobic because of this F word that he said, well, then why is he not? How come you don't place that same accusation on him when he said the other thing? So he makes jokes about black folks. What is he supposed to be, anti-black? He makes jokes about white folks all the time, which most black comedians do. Almost every black comedian that you've seen since Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, the Def Jam days, the Kings of Comedy days. And so what, are these people supposed to be anti-white? He's also a Democrat, by the way. He makes jokes about Democrats. He's made jokes about the Clintons and Obama. I'm like, is he anti-Democrat too? I know that's a little different. I'm just kind of going off to. So I just want to know. I really wish that I was a fly on the wall during that conversation. I want to know if that lady had a response to what he said. Now, she probably didn't. Who knows? But I'm just saying right now, listen, I'm glad that Chappelle is still on his feet. I'm glad he's still doing what he's doing. And listen, the reason why I argued with a lot of leftists and liberals about him, here's what I posted when he got in trouble the first time. Now, part of it is on me because I may not have really detailed it or worded it right. I said this. I said, you know what? I highly doubt that Dave Chappelle is going to get canceled after this. So guess what? I had liberals, Democrats, leftists. They were unfriending me, people that blocked me, and people who just disconnected themselves from me because they said, I can't associate it with anybody who is defending Dave Chappelle's anti-transgenderism because that makes you a transphobe and that makes you a homophobe. You know, again, I keep repeating myself here. There are other comedians, and I think the context of my statement was basically saying other comedians have said things that were much worse, and they didn't get canceled. And some of those people are currently deceased, you know, God rest their souls, Joan Rivers, George Carlin. But I said, so if they said things that were worse, and they didn't get canceled, well then how is this? What is the thing that... Why are they after this guy? There has to be something else that we don't know about. You can't just... Why are they just targeting him out the blue? We're going to go after the guy who makes transgender jokes. But you're not going after the guy who told his audience to rape a woman, even though he claimed he was joking about it, the guy who made a joke about a mass shooting, the person who made a joke about Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson being dead, all these people that joked about 9/11 and the Holocaust and all these other things that are so much worse, those things get to walk scot-free. But he's the most hated comedian now. I do not understand that at all. I really don't. I don't get that. And no liberal has really taken that. And I'm a liberal, as I say in the last video, and I think, as you can tell, based on every political video that I have done, and based on the people that I've had on my show. Again, I'm gonna repeat it again. I am a liberal, so I have liberals arguing me, saying, you know that this is wrong. Listen, I'll tell you what I'm for. If you're a comedian, especially if you're a comedian, and you are making jokes about essentially all groups, for me personally, I'm not going to get offended by it, especially if the joke is constructed the right way. But people, come on, this just doesn't make any sense right here. It just does not make sense. And by the way, that F word, he's not the first comedian to say it. Eddie Murphy said it in the 80s. Now, I know the LGBT community wasn't as prominent then. I mean, essentially it wasn't a thing. Even though you had gay folks, you had lesbians, and you had bis. I mean, they existed. But that group as a whole, and that power structure that they hold, and now this movement, it wasn't a thing back then. So Eddie Murphy said it. Bernie Mac said it. No backlash there. He said it in The Kings of Comedy that came out in 2000. Who else said it? There were a few other comedians. Actually, you know what? Tom Segura did a special in 2018 called Disgraceful. I think he said that word along with saying the word retarded, or I guess the more politically correct term would be the R word. Now, he got in trouble for that for a little bit, but he also continued to do more comedy specials because he did a special in 2020. Now, people, this is all I'm saying right now. I think that they're doing him wrong. And if anybody could take that clip that I just played to you right there, if anybody could just tell me what is bad about that statement and the question that he asked, if you're mad about him asking that question and giving that response, you might want to rethink yourself. You might want to just sit there and think about, okay, why am I against this? If you're going to be a bit against both words, that's one thing. But to sit there and say, you can't say the F word because you're not a homosexual, but you can say the N word because you're black. His statement implied that that's how a lot of them see people like him. Is that how a lot of people who are not black happen to see a lot of black folks? And that's a little, you can say there's a hint of bigotry within that, and it's prejudice. And that's all he did was point that out. So you know what? Listen, I know that Chappelle's not anti-Semitic. And I believe that he is not racist, that he is not sexist, that he is not homophobic or xenophobic or transphobic or any other thing that has the suffix phobic in it. I don't believe he is that. I think he's just fine. I think he's still one of the greatest comics that we have alive. I think he's a great voice. And I'm glad to see that he's still on his feet. And I'll still watch him, and I'll still go to his shows. So, Dave Chappelle, you keep doing you.